So Akoko had two wonderful children, but the chief was still under pressure to marry, especially when it became clear that she was one of those women who found it hard to conceive regularly. The first time must have been a lucky shot, grumbled Nyarasembo. The pressure became very intense when Nyabera turned 4 and her mother remained confoundingly slim. She still had a beautiful figure, which of course went totally unappreciated. My son, what if some ill wind took your only son? Nyarasembo was now reduced to wails, lamentations and dire predictions. Once she so forgot herself to declare that Nyarimbo, Akoko, had bewitched her son. She will never ever live long enough to forget that terrible day. Her daughter-in-law, a relentless worker, had been put out in the field all day, so it was not until evening that she got wind of the matter. She calmly made the evening meal for the children, cleared up, and everybody went to bed. At first light, as was her wont, for she was an early riser, she woke the entire village with wails and screams. People rushed out of their houses to the chief's homestead, thinking that it was the chief or his son who had died, for in either case, it would have been Nyarimbo's duty to raise the alarm. When a good-sized crowd had gathered, she stood just outside her house and spoke with a loud voice. I, Akoko Obanda Nyarimbo, daughter of the Imbo people, came to the homestead of Oworkembo, chief, as pure a girl, 19 seasons old. In all that time, I was taught nothing but the ways of chick and how to conduct myself as a woman of impeccable birth. Never in all that time did my mother or my father take me out in the dark for the purposes of showing me how to cast spells or to brew love potions to snare the hearts of men. I was taught that the way to keep a man was by the work of my hands and the words of my mouth. Obanda, my great uncle, was a healer after whom many children are named. He was known to harm no man and frequently sent off those who sought trouble for others with a flea in their ear. Has anyone ever seen me gossiping with other women at the waterhole? Do I always not rise early to till my lands? Have I ever begged for food from you, my mother-in-law, as all your daughters-in-law do? Do I not always have enough to eat and more left over to barter in exchange for cattle, goats and sheep? Indeed, the size of her herds had become impressive. Children are a gift from Were, both to the deserving and the undeserving. Do not even murderers, witches, and sluggards who cannot even feed themselves have children? Should I spit in the eyes of Were like a snake and deny that he has given me children? Were creates a child in its mother's womb, in secret, in his own time, and at his own volition. I have not stood in the way of my husband and other women. He is the chief, and I cannot order him either to marry or not to marry. Much has been said by the daughter of the people of Asembo, Nyar Asembo, and her son Otieno about the 30 head of cattle that were paid to my father as a bride price. It causes them much bitterness that I have not borne 30 children in exchange for those cattle. Indeed, my continued presence here is bitter aloes to them. Therefore, I shall lift their gloom and suffering and depart from here to go back to my father's house. Be it known that my father was a wealthy man before receiving those cattle and would have remained wealthy without them, for none of my 21 brothers is wifeless. Be it noted also that the wealth I have created in this home is more than double the number paid for me. This everyone knows. Therefore, when I reach home, I shall request the Council of Jodongo to convene proceedings for a separation. My people will give back your cattle and you will give me back mine. The crowd hissed. Such a thing was unheard of. Didn't a man own a woman, body and soul? Marriage was sacred, and Chick saw to it that it remained that way by series of taboos that made it almost impossible to sever the union. However, the insult had been great. To accuse someone of juok, which is witchcraft, even in gist, was an unforgivable crime, and there had been precedents if the woman and her people were determined enough to get a separation. The people of Himbo were a proud lot, and their love for their daughter was known all round, for they always came out in massive support of her at various ceremonies and functions. The only saving grace would be the high esteem in which they held their son-in-law, Oworkembo, the chief. And where might he be? Inquired someone. So taken up had they been by Nyarimbo's oratory that they had failed to notice his absence. He went to a friend's funeral the day before yesterday and is due to be back today. Meanwhile, I will teach this she-wolf a lesson. This from Otieno, her brother-in-law. She looked at him straight in the eye and hissed, "Just you dare." He retreated at the pure venom in her eyes. Besides, he was afraid of his brother, who had added scandal to all his other sins by failing to ever lay a finger on his wife. She left without further ado, and her children, forgotten in the confusion, ran after her. This will never do. She turned and gently but firmly ordered them to go back and await their father's return. "But mother," started the argumentative Obura. "No buts. Just go back and do as I tell you." She left them and went swiftly on her way. The crowd stood mesmerized for a while before departing also. When Oworkembo returned from his journey, he found an empty house. His mother and brother tried to bluff it out, but eventually got the full story from willing villagers and his children. But nobody had ever seen the chief so angry. He almost struck his mother a great taboo and throttled his brother half to death before reason reasserted itself. Then he locked himself in his simba for a day. His mother muttered to herself about such unseemly behavior in a full-grown man, but he was careful to keep her voice low. The following day, he called for the council of Jodongo to convene. "My fathers," he began, "it is a shameful thing for my wife to leave her husband's house and return to her father's house. This outrageous thing has occurred only because I was not here to prevent it. Our chief, we are all saddened by this unfortunate state of affairs, but you must admit that your mother has a point or two. Long have we pleaded with you to take another wife for yourself, and you have adamantly refused. Now she has left you. You are like a misumba, a bachelor, which would not have been the case if you had another wife. We beg you take another wife for yourself." This was from Oyer, a grizzled old man who had been his mother's greatest champion in her quest for a wife for Owor. He realized that the old geezers were going to give him a hard time of it, so he changed tactics. "Fathers, you are the wise men of the community. That is why you sit in the council. Is it that you have forgotten the ways of Chick, that your determination to get me marry other wives has clouded your judgment? Do you not know that a man's Mikai is the greatest jewel that adorns his compound? That her position is maintained and protected by taboos imposed by the ways of Chick? That if I die, were forbid, my body can only lie in state in her house before I am buried on the right-hand side of her heart? And this will be so even if she herself were dead? To lose one's Mikai is to lose one's right hand." The Jodongo nodded sagaciously at the wisdom uttered by the chief. It is true that the Mikai is the center post that holds up a man's heart. Without her, or if she was stupid, only Were could rescue such a man from being blown away from among the people like so much a chaff. She is who saves a young man from the follies and stupidities of youth. Indeed, the people of Ramogi had a saying that declared that the medicine for stupidity is marriage. Yes, the chief had spoken wisely, but Oyer will not give up so easily. "Son of Kembo and father of young Kembo, what you say is only the truth. But can a house be built with only one pole, however strong it is? Others are needed to give it support. What would you do if an animal attacked you and you had only one arrow in your quiver and you missed with the first and only one? Consider the welfare of your people. If not only for yourself, at least get another wife for their sake, so that you are assured of enough heirs to guide them." "Fathers," countered Owor, "I already have an heir, and besides, Otieno my brother has 6 sons already, and he also is the blood of the first chief, Morocco Otuoma, our great-great-grandfather." "Son of Kembo, our chief, may I first of all point out that even though Otieno is the blood, the spirit of Morocco, great and fearless warrior and a just man, just does not rest upon him. Besides, you know that the fullness of the spirit usually rests on the firstborn, who is therefore empowered by Chick to receive the good fortune which naturally overflow to the people. In that case, I have every reason to thank Were, for he has not disappointed me in my firstborn. Let us therefore make haste and send a delegation to Impo to plead our case, so that the mother of Obura may return to her own house. I am certain that we will have to take a sizable fine to appease her people, but I do not care, as the wealth in my house has multiplied under her care. The council dispersed, with Oyer muttering something under his breath, something about the usefulness of wealth without children. The following day, 4 young men were given a cow and an ox, a he-goat and 2 nanny-goats to drive to Imbo to smooth the way for elders who later go there. They were told to take a message of goodwill and gratitude to the people of Imbo for the good luck which had hitherto existed between the people of Imbo and the people of Sakwa, and the great word which had been forged. They were to inform their hosts that a delegation of Siders would arrive on the 23rd day of the moon to discuss the serious and unfortunate thing which had occurred. They were received coolly, and were it not for the fact that Chick stated clearly that a messenger should not be victimized in lieu of his senders, something terrible might have been done to them. After the lightest of meals, they took their leave and returned to their clan.